And listening is like sometimes it's that smaller voice. I call it a cosmic alarm clock, and it's like this small, little, subtle voice. And we can either hit snooze and go back to bed, or we can answer it. And but it's usually a small voice, but it'll get louder and louder a lot of times if like it was sort of like bonk you on the head over and over again. The universe will keep doing something to get your attention. And for some people it's health stuff, for some people it's financial, for some people it's relationship stuff. It all depends, but it's there's something in there, and you can answer it when it's a smaller voice, or you can answer it when it's a loud or ringing voice that literally slams you over the head. But regardless, you're gonna listen at some point.
Mm.
2, 1, 0.
Hey, Yanik, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Yeah, thanks, Orion.
Yeah. Before we start, I have this in my hand.
Ah,
And I'm going to
nice.
pull a card, and you're going to tell me
All right,
what it means about this interview. So we'll
all
take it
right,
from
hold.
there.
All right. Let's take a deep breath together.
Okay.
All right.
Taking a deep breath. I'm holding your cards in my hand. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Tell me when.
Ready.
Are you ready?
Okay. When?
When? Oh,
All right.
the activated ally.
All right. Nice.
What did that mean?
I don't know.
But you have
No,
a
I'm
whole.
kidding.
You have a whole.
I'm kidding. The activated ally. So there's 55 cards in that deck, and 11 of them are these cosmic Q&As. And so what we would actually do, and people that are listening to this, they might want to do it as homework, you would actually connect to your ally, and so the ally is the let's see what the actual characteristics of the ally are, but I can tell you how to use the card. So what number was that? It's a Roman numeral.
Oh my God, I think I put it back in the deck. No, here it is.
That's all right. I
It's
know where it
the
is.
IX is like how do you read that?
Okay, so yeah, okay. All right, so the activated ally. So the attributes are hero, mentorship, guide, and superpower.
Are you
And
gonna
so
be
I'll
my
just read what
hero,
it says here. It
mentorship,
says,
guide, and superpower right now?
yeah, so we're going to connect to that. So there's a reason you admire certain characters, heroes, or mentors. And those that you look up to represent actually a golden shadow. And they reflect exactly who you are and when you act from your highest self. So who are you most attracted to right now? You can call forth that ally. And they can be anyone who's passed or alive. It doesn't really matter for that conversation, so we can activate them now. So
Right.
who's like a hero that you connect to?
Can it be a fictional
Yeah,
hero?
absolutely. It could be
Wonder
fictional.
Woman?
Wonder Woman, yeah. So why is Wonder Woman? Why do you connect to Wonder Woman?
Well, A, because Gal Gadot is Israeli like me, which was like the coolest thing in the whole world. Back in my past life, I mean this lifetime, I wanted to be an actress, and people told me that
Hmm.
because of my accent, the only role I can get will be of a terrorist or or something like that. And I believed them, and I gave my power away. And just looking at what she did in Hollywood and how she, with her accent, became the most iconic American superhero, representing the most iconic American superhero. And not only that, in the movie, like I'm just looking at the way she weaves into the quantum field and manifest her reality. Not only she did not need to work on her English, everybody on set had to learn her accent to match her.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I love that. Right, so she created her own reality.
Yes. And I, of
That's
course,
amazing.
like when I look at the character, the saving the world and being
Sure.
strong and sexy and wearing those
Th-
cool boots, it sounds
Yeah, there's
so
actually an
fun.
amazing history of Wonder Woman. If you go back to the original creator of Wonder Woman, it's worth researching. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so this idea of this activated ally. So most people know about a shadow, or not everyone, but a lot of people know about shadow aspects of like the things that we try and keep hidden, and the things that we don't present to the world. But our golden shadow is also an aspect of ourselves that when we kind of project it onto a hero, or, in this case, the activated ally, and it's also ourselves at our highest expression of who we are. So everything that you just mentioned,
Hmm.
that's all you. That's all you at when you're in your highest aspect, for sure. So that's all that. And now what we do with these cards, so these 11 cards, is you would have a cosmic Q&A with that activated ally.
Mm.
And so if you're right-handed or use your dominant hand, you would write questions using your dominant hand. Like, so for instance, like, what's one of the attributes I can utilize for what's next for me, is one of the questions. Or what's your best advice here? Or which of your characteristics do you see in me? Or whatever it is, whatever you want to do, just bring up that ally. It's even better if you meditate for a few minutes and bring forth that ally. And
Hmm.
then you'd ask the question with your right hand or dominant hand, and then you answer with your left hand as that
Mm.
ally.
I like
And then you
that.
go back and forth and have an entire conversation. So you can
I
get,
do that. I do that. Actually, I think this was the first episode on this podcast. We're already at 260 or something like that. Um, so many years ago, when I had my first episode, I
uh-huh.
had Bill Donios on. Do you know of him?
Say who?
Bill Donios?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Bill's where I learned the
Yeah,
original process from. Yeah,
right.
he and I are friends,
Oh, cool. So that who he taught you the Yeah, I've been doing that ever since. It's pretty
and it's a
amazing.
super powerful, right? It's like it unlocks this entire full brain aspect of who we are, and so Bill, he doesn't normally talk about this. I don't know if he talked about it on the show, but he would use it like to connect to, I think, his grandfather who passed on,
Oh,
and he would
wow.
so he
No, we
would
didn't. We
use that.
talked about
So,
more totem animal and more surface level. We didn't go to
yeah,
beyond.
right. So he, and I don't know if he does the back and forth. So he learned this process from a child psychologist, Lucia Carpiciano, who talks about inner child work,
Mm.
and so Bill uses it in innovation sessions for like Fortune 500 executives, and so it's really amazing, and it's super powerful. But you can do it in this very spiritual way too. Like it's really, you tap into to anything, and especially like tuning in, right? So there's all these archetypes in the deck. There's 11 of them, but that allies is a great one. So we're going to use Wonder Woman as our ally to connect with for our interview here.
That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm ready.
That
Um,
all right.
when uh when did you decide that you're gonna have a card deck, and how did you even start it? Because maybe you can give me a little bit of your origin story.
Sure.
You like how did you were a mega successful entrepreneur, and then you have this incredible spiritual side, and you have this super funny monster behind you. You are such an interesting person.
Uh, well, yeah, I sometimes depends. You have to ask my wife if I'm an interesting person or not, or my kids. But they would say that I'm probably embarrassing, but who knows? The So my background, the origin story is Russian immigrant family. Came over when I was 3 years old, and my dad ended up starting a company about 7 8 months after he came to America. And then I ended up working for my dad, medical equipment sales and service. So I got a super early start in marketing and sales. At 14, I was telemarketing. At 16, I got a car, but only if I went out and cold called. And so I was cold calling these doctors who were like, 50, 60-year-old, 40-year-old doctors. And I realized that really sucked. And one of my doctors turned me on to direct response marketing. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can write ads and people will actually pay attention, and I can just, talk to interested doctors. And so very early on, I used those skills and helped my dad's business grow. But as I was always a weird kid, like, so probably 14, 15, I was really deep into like the pyramids and Stonehenge and UFOs and all sorts of things. And so I always was intrigued by all that stuff. What's that? I think you're on mute, Run.
Sorry, I said you were ahead of your time.
I was ahead. Yeah, that's right. I was a weirdo ahead of my time, and I think just being an immigrant child makes you a little bit of a weirdo too. Like you don't totally feel like you always fit in, and so I always would do things that were a little bit odd, and so I remember even like when my doctor client gave me these audio tapes about marketing And so I played ice hockey, and all my friends would be like in my car, would be driving to places. They'd be like, "What are all those tapes?" I'm like, you guys won't like them. And so I would just like listen to self development and personal growth tapes and marketing tapes instead of like listening to music. And so I always would go kind of the opposite direction of most other people. And then it was finding someone, a guy named Earl Nightingale, who's a mentor via audio, who wrote The Strangest Secret and Lead the Field. And I listened to that I don't know how many times, but he really gave words to the things that I was feeling about not, if you want to do something extraordinary, to not do the ordinary things. And then kind of got started in the online world and did really well there. And then people are like, "Oh, how did you do that? Could you teach me?" And then that turned into a whole nother career. And then about 13, 14 years ago, I asked a really simple question, which is, am I happy? Would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And outside looking in, everything was great. But the real answer in my journal was no. And so it was like, all right, well, what do I really want to do? And that was this deep exploration, then coming back to the spiritual side when the normal stuff wasn't quite working.
Sometimes we get answers when we ask, and it's not the answers that we like to hear, but
Yeah.
we have to listen. It's the perfect answers for us. So
Yeah, and listening is like sometimes it's that smaller voice. I call it a cosmic alarm clock, and it's like this small, little, subtle voice, and we can either hit snooze and go back to bed, or we can answer it in. But it's usually a small voice, but it'll get louder and louder a lot of times if like it was sort of like bonk you on the head over and over again. The universe will keep doing something to get your attention. And for some people, it's health stuff. For some people, it's financial. For some people, it's relationship stuff. It all depends, but it's there's something in there, and you can answer it when it's a smaller voice, or you can answer it when it's a loud or ringing voice that literally slams you over the head. But regardless, you're gonna listen at some point.
yeah. How did you, so when did you have that spiritual awakening? And how do you combine like being like a spiritual, in a way, a spiritual leader, but just a cool one, and an entrepreneur and helping people with their business lives?
It's a good question. I don't know if I'd even consider myself a spiritual leader. I look at myself as, I just want when I look
Maybe
at
a
who I,
mentor. Okay.
yeah, mentor, but no, but like when I look at people that I really appreciate, it's like they are in integrity, and they are, they do the work, right? Like, so to me, it's like how the only, like, I think about my kids, the only way that, like, they're not going to listen to me necessarily about here's what you do to have a better life, but they will
Mm,
watch me.
right. Yes.
They'll watch if I'm doing yoga, or they'll watch if I'm doing weird meditations or whatever, and they'll watch me journaling and reading, or what the case is. And they also watch me, sometimes on my phone, just scrolling kind of mindlessly. So it's, I'm not perfect there. And but a lot of it is, okay, how do I walk that talk of what does it mean to combine spirit with this sort of reality of where we are right now. And entrepreneurship is a really interesting spiritual journey for most people, and they might not even realize it. I love Michael Singer. He has his book Untethered Soul, and then Surrender Experiment. And Surrender Experiment was really great, where he kind of inadvertently started a company, and he said that was the greatest spiritual journey he's ever been on,
Mm,
because it forces you, so many things come up in entrepreneurship and this path of, so it's like, I don't think you can separate the spirit from that entrepreneurship and wherever you are.
right. What's your New Year's resolutions?
I don't do New Year's resolutions.
If you just like, go deep inside for a second and that, and connect, like what does
Yeah, but I do. So I do for solstice every year. I connect, right. So I go off by myself for the day typically, and
nice.
and I'll set a theme or intention for the year. And to me, the year for me starts on solstice. So
Mm.
I'm more interested in the natural patterns, and so this year my theme is multi-dimensional opportunity,
Okay, I
uh,
like
to
that.
to bloom where I'm planeted.
What does it mean, multi-dimensional opportunity?
I don't know. I'm gonna see what it opens up, but to me, the multi-dimensional opportunity is one of my favorite things, because it's like, when I look at where I've been successful, a lot of it, and where I've helped people, it's providing them opportunity, like especially economic opportunity. Like, so when I first started online, I woke up with an idea at 3 o'clock in the morning for something called instant sales letters. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go create these little fill in the blank sales letter templates. And then
Mm.
I had no technical skills, but I put it out there. And then all of a sudden, within a couple months, I was doing six figures. And then people are like, oh, how'd you do that? Could you teach me? And
Mm.
then so really, I was teaching them this opportunity of taking their knowledge, information, content, and selling it online. And so that was an opportunity. And I look at, all the things that I've done, a lot of it has been opportunity, but opportunity with integrity or evolved opportunity, and providing other people with unique ways of sharing that. So multidimensional opportunity to me is, I don't know. We'll see. But it's like more than just this one very specific way of only counting success as dollars in the bank,
Mm.
and that's for a long while that hasn't been the way that I've only counted success. I think that's important as a measure of your value that you're providing, but it's only one measure.
So
So
what is
multidimensional
success to you?
success to me at the barest sort of, at the foundational level, it's doing what I want to do with people that I love and working on projects that I'm really intrigued by and love to do, and where it feels like play. So last year my intention was play fully, profit fully, purpose fully, and and fully was always in parentheses, but that idea of play is such a big one. Of like not just play like, oh, playing a game, but play like fully expressing yourself. To me is like play,
Okay,
and
tell me
when you're
more
doing.
about fully expressing yourself. Because I've been really curious in that concept lately. It's been like on my mind, like who am I and how do I really express myself? Because I find I'm an Aries and I'm really good at
Mhm.
adapting to situations. I can be the proper lady at the table and I can be the crazy person that dances in the rave. And I, I'm like, how do I express who I am regardless in any freaking situation without trying to, be like a chameleon and fit in?
Yeah. Well, is there a time that you remember that you're like, oh, this feels totally authentically like who I am, or activity? A lot of times we as kids was, so I go back to like when I was a kid. What are the things that I love to do,
Hmm.
and bringing more of that out. As a kid, I was a weirdo, as I said, into Stonehenge and the pyramids and UFOs and all that stuff. And then I also would draw. I got in trouble for drawing all the time in
Mm.
class, but I would also be like the class clown. I was also kind of like friends with everyone, but not like deep friends with every single group. And so like all those things have now continued to sort of come out. I was also athletic, so more and more like when you express yourself, I think the purest expression was really in those years of like maybe 9 to like 15
Mm.
approximately. And you think back to like what did you really just love to do, and now with a couple more years on you, you have a new lens of what that looks like. So originally as a kid I wanted to be a hockey player, a professional hockey player, and a cartoonist in the off season. And
Mm.
so you asked like how those cards came about and so forth. Like it's and I was not the best cartoonist. I was not the best hockey player. I didn't make the NHL. But looking at it today, it's funny. Like my drawings started coming back in my journal many years later, and then I realized that was part of my full expression. I love that, and it's just
Mm.
fun. And then it wasn't done for anyone. It wasn't done with an end purpose of, okay, well, this is going to make me money, or this is going to be my next project. It was just done to because I loved it. Like almost every meeting I have, I'll doodle and draw. But then it turned into something when I created enough space to allow it to almost like emerge by itself.
Mm. Yeah, when I was a kid, I liked to climb trees. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a zoologist.
Okay.
I wanted to be a singer. Um, I loved dancing. I mean, pretty much all the things that I love today. Like I love animals and I
Okay.
love dancing and I love singing and I like performing. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean those loves and likes never go away. It's just like how do we express them from a new, like evolved kind of way of it. And so when I talk to even entrepreneurs who are incredible leaders, and they are like, well, I don't know what's next for me, or whatever it is, or if they're, like you asked, like, how do you fully express yourself? I think it's in those areas, and making sure that there's time for those activities,
Mm-hmm.
and however they look like, and also giving it room to be like, oh, they're just fun experiments, and see what happens, and just playing around with them.
Tell me more about the monster behind you, because that's not the typical background.
Well, all right, this is so I've been doing. I love puppets because puppets can do and say anything, and so this is Max. He's based on my dad, so he has a Russian accent.
Yeah, so wait, for those who's listening, and you can watch it on YouTube as well, but
The-
he's holding a super cute green monster with red nose and red ears, and it's really cute.
So Max can just come on and say anything, but I'm playing around with the idea of maybe a Zoom puppet show at some point, a brainstorming puppet show called Evil Schemes for Global Good. So you would come on, you would tell me your business issue, and then Max would answer. They'd be like, okay, Ryan, what do you want to know? Oh my goodness, this is a stupid idea. You love animals and dancing? No, this is a terrible business. Okay. So Dad would probably talk to me as well.
This is really funny. Oh wow. So yeah, I mean, just holding a puppet and talking, like doing those crazy things without thinking about what other people will think about you. How do you do that? How do you navigate that? I'm sure, like, okay, now you're mega famous and you're a leader, but when you started, how do you navigate this, doing those silly things and not caring about what other people think of you?
Well, no, I mean it's like I love like, entertaining myself. So we ran a seminar, pretty big internet digital marketing seminars for a while, and some of my favorite parts of it was just playing practical jokes on the speakers and people that we have, like like Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever. We'd have like these big like fog things that would fly up at him, and someone else, there'd be like a little copter that came over, and a drone that came over, and would say something, or we paid a lot of money for like set design, and it was just fun. I don't know. I like just look at, like, if you're not having fun, it's not really worth it, and why not have fun? And people will, like, you can't do, like, I can't be another, we're talking about heroes and allies, right? So one of my favorite business heroes and mentors is Richard Branson,
Hmm.
and but I can't be another Richard Branson. So his humor and the way he does things is not going to be the same as like what I do. And when I'm authentic to myself, he's engaged and he loves it. And when so it's like you can't like duplicate someone else, but you wanna just add in your own element of whatever it is for you. And yeah, some you might be like, oh my God, people are gonna, what are they gonna think of me? And I might not bring Max to a big pitch that I might have to do, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I will, and I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
and like even like the cards, right? Like that was a big jump for me, and the journal, because it's all about like cosmic and galactic energies and all these things,
mm,
and like star seeds, and so that was very very different than some of the other stuff I put out there. But at the end of the day, I felt like it's the fullest expression of who I am. And the purple one's really cool. That's one of the
I
special
got
edition ones.
the special edition purple one.
Yeah, and so
Um,
that works like an oracle too. So you can just pop it open, and
yeah, should we do it again?
yeah,
Do it again. Why not? It's fun. We are made of star stuff, but born of the earth. Perfect to start a
yeah.
life.
Yeah, well, perfect for your name. I mean, your name is right on target for that.
Mhm. And I think also with spirituality, a lot of people go on spiritual journeys, and if they get really sucked into those journeys, sometimes the ego gets involved and they get into this spiritual ego where it's all like, I'm flying high and I'm like a tree that is touching the sky, but I don't have roots. I'm not grounded. So I love what you're
Yeah,
doing here, where you're saying that we are both. we need to be grounded. We can't just fly high and be out there. We need both. We need the nourishment from being grounded and from the earth, and we need to also connect to our intuition and connect to our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And business is a good way of doing that, right? Like business is kind of the earth element of like being on the ground and getting things done. One of my friends who's a shaman, he's like, entrepreneurs are the new shamans because you have one foot in
Really,
dream space and one foot in this earth space. And so it's like, how do we connect? I talk about like connecting your head, which is your business side, connecting your heart, which is the impact you want to make in the world, and then your higher purpose. So
mm,
like, how do we align all of that together? And it does have to be aligned. I was talking to one of my friends, and we were talking about this, and I heard it from somewhere, and I wish I remembered. I'd give them credit, but they're saying that more people that associate like with the stars or anywhere like that. You said we're all made of stars, and but also born of the earth, and but like the evolution is from the top down instead of the bottom up. And so like your third eye might be more developed, or your crown chakra might be more developed, but this grounding, and that was the way for me. Like it was never like I never connected as much to like the lower levels like that. And so all of this has been a process of like just being like, yeah, you're here for a reason. So like, as I said, my intention, that multidimensional opportunity to bloom where I'm planeted. And planeted is, that representation, right? Like, so you're planeted here for a reason. So not just planted, but like what is your industry or marketplace, or why have you been strategically planeted in a particular spot, and what does that look like, and allowing that to then bloom in that place as well.
mm. What is being multi-dimensional means to you? And I know you're like, I'm open, it's going to be a surprise, but have you ever had astral projection or tapped into places where you didn't even imagine you can, or saw visions that are beyond this realm?
I haven't done the astral travel, but I've worked with different like in sacred ceremonies and so forth. So definitely had a lot of different visions of that have come in I would say beyond this sort of realm, and and I think that's part of it for sure, the multidimensional aspect. So I really believe in this big. So we're in this 26,000 year cycle, this great year, and it's actually the last page of the journal talks about it. That so a lot of times most people think of history as this very linear kind of thing, but
Mm,
it's really a cycle, but it's more like a cycle that goes like this and this. But so we're in this ascending consciousness phase of like kind of like the same way there's 12 hours approximately of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. So, and then there's four seasons, and then, but you can extrapolate out these cycles and cycles and cycles.
mhm,
And so there's a reason that many civilizations tracked tremendous numbers, right? Like, so the Mayans had calendars, 13 calendars, and one of them was 5,260 years, and you multiply that by five, it corresponds to precession. And so that's approximately this 26,000 year cycle. And that's where, I think that we're in, and that's where the multidimensional aspect comes in. It's like, what is the bigger story? What is evolution
mm,
kind of asking us to do right now, or what's the universe, or what's consciousness activating in us?
mhm. What do you do to handle outside stressors and situations? Because we are living in a time where it's pretty crazy. If you asked me 2 years ago that this is what life's gonna look like in many places, I would be like, what? This is just a
Yeah.
crazy movie. Like, w- so how do you
Yeah. Well,
handle all that? Like all the shifts, all the changes, all the external noise.
the one part is knowing where we are in that story. So that
Mhm.
really helps.
So
Knowing
how
that
does that
that
help me to know where I am in that story?
because
I mean,
so I
it's an
look at it right.
interesting idea, but like, what do I do to contribute or uh to interact with that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, knowing that that is like it's been a prophecy for a long time, and that we're in this time that things have to really break down in order to create this new age. So that was the golden age, silver age, bronze and iron age, and then it would come back up again. And so knowing that it has to have these periods of darkness and then to come back up. So that helps knowing where we are in the story. But really the everyday practices. So I've been meditating for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And I never thought that I could meditate because as an entrepreneur, I have like a million ideas a minute. But I like experiments. So same like, anything that you want to try to make you that that you'd like to try. It could be journaling, it could be meditation, it could be breath work, it could be anything, whatever, no sugar, no alcohol, anything. I like them as experiments. And then that way it's not like, oh, I'm forever saying I'm not going to do this or I'm going to add this. But then I say, okay, for 33 days, I'm going to try it and then we'll see. And then, so activating more of those. And then, so that allows, the meditation has definitely allowed me to say, okay, what's the stimulus? So what's happening? And then how do I create more space between my reaction to it? So instead of just having that instantaneous reaction of, holy shit, everything's crazy, let's see how I can, essentially navigate my own nervous system and bring that calmness to myself, and then decide how I want to interact. And the other thing that I find is words, right? Like, so even using the word like crazy, which is a normal word that a lot of us will use, that brings up
Crazy.
a lot of
Right.
turmoil.
I should know better.
Well, even saying I should, right? Like that.
I should,
like,
not
right?
should all over myself.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the more we can bring attention to our internal dialogue, our external dialogue. I mean, you can learn so much about someone, by the words that they use and so forth. It's like, and all of that dictates how do we show up in the world as well. And of course you can get stuck in the guilt patterns and the shame and all that things as well, because if you look at it, like there's so many things that are kind of hitting us from so many directions that it's not as easy to be centered. So those daily practices. So
Well, what's your
for me,
daily practice? What's a day in your life looks like?
my day's a little bit different every day, but there are some non-negotiables for sure. Some sort of mindfulness in the morning. Could be breath work and meditation. Could be yoga as well. Might not be yoga every day. But that meditation, like not turning on my phone first thing is a big one.
Yeah.
Because I want to limit my internal inputs, like what's coming at me first. And it's definitely not getting on an email or anything like that I have to be reactive and respond to that. Like that's for sure. Having some water is a super easy one. And then and then from that spot where I've kind of created my own space, then I can come into my day. And then at the end of the day, I love to journal. So it's like processing the day and pretty much a daily journal habit. And that's one of my favorite things. And it's been scientifically proven to make you happier because it's expressive writing and it allows you to take whatever's happened and you create a story, become a beginning, middle, and end on the page. And that makes you happier just by
How did you
expressing
write
it.
your journal, the one that you published? How did that come about? Like, how do you sit and write something like that? Because it's very insightful. It's really deep.
That was, so as I said, I want to be a cartoonist and like I saw this thing going around online that I saw was 100-day art challenge. And I'm like, whoa, that's a long time. And then it got like kind of like intrigued me. Like, when something like calls to you, you're like, oh, I'm a little scared of it, but it's really interesting. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do 108 days. It's more meaningful in different wisdom traditions. So,
Yeah.
and then like in my journal, I just wrote to myself, like what I travel around a lot. It's like it would be difficult to do this. Like, am I willing to do it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. And the byproducts, who knows what will happen from it? And so I just committed that every single day, no matter what. And I love when you make a commitment to yourself and you actually keep it. It actually proves that you can honor yourself and you trust yourself even more and you grow from there. So it doesn't have to be a 100-day or 108-day thing. It could be a 10-day experiment or whatever it is, but it just makes you stronger. And so I decided to do it, and it was my favorite part of the day. No matter where I was, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I would do that. And so sometimes I'd go back through my old journals and pull out some things, but a lot of times it was just meditating and then seeing what would come through me, and I wouldn't know. And
Mm.
like there's one that's one of my favorites. It's a labyrinth, and on that labyrinth it says you can only what does it say? It's like something like you can only see the next step, and then you'll see the next step or something like that. I'll see where it is. Oh, here it is. So it says you don't need to see the full path, just the next step. So that that was what it looked like, and so I spent all that time drawing the labyrinth, and that was the only quote that I was going to write was you don't need to see the full path, just the next step. And then I'm like intuitively, I'm like, well, let's see what happens if I keep writing. And so
Mm.
literally, if you read it, it's really fun because it goes along with the labyrinth. So it says, and then the next one, and the next one will open to you. Each step moves you closer to your center, even if you feel upside down and turned around. So at that point, you're actually upside down and turned around inside the labyrinth. So I kept going, and it was really, really powerful. And it was just again like trusting myself to to see what would happen.
I like
And
that.
so for 108 days, I did that. And then one of my friends, I showed it to a couple friends, and I was like really excited. I started using it myself as an oracle, and I showed it to my friends, and like, oh, this is amazing. And so he paid to get those purple edition, like you have, created. And then I got a breakfast meeting with the head of Hay House, which is one of the biggest personal growth transformation
Nice.
publishers out there. And Reed was like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay. So they immediately got a contract, and so there's a Hay House version too that's available. And that was the wildest editing because the editors would go through it and they'd be like, well, we need a new word here, or you need to put a different paragraph, or we need a new image. And I literally would have to redraw an entire page or rewrite an entire page. So it wasn't like a Microsoft Word document that I just updated because everything was handwritten. So it was pretty interesting.
That's very cool. Do you believe that we have a destiny that is pre-written for us, or do we have choice, or do you think that only part of our lives are a choice and some is already a destiny?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this in some way. I definitely believe that we're in a free will sort of zone, and that we have free will to decide what we want to do anytime. But so many times it feels like there is a destiny, and you keep sort of coming back to it, and you can decide how. Like if you look at, to me, I love like synchronicities and different like things that show up that are just incredible. And so I think you're continually being guided back to what is your true path or your dharma, but you always have choice about what you want to do with it.
Mhm.
And and so I do think that there's kind of a almost like a predisposition and a destiny in a way, but you're not like, oh, I'm destined to only do this one particular thing, and no matter what I do or no matter what choice I'm going to make, I'm going to always end up with this book that I'm going to write or something that I was always predestined to do. I think there's probably a half dozen other books that I could have come up with, but I was you know drawn to that in some way. So I think it's a mixture in some way, but you're always. So I ask people this a lot, like when I speak, especially entrepreneurs. I'm like, do you believe that you're destined for greatness? And a lot of the rooms will, or a lot of hands will raise up, and I'm like, well, not in an egotistical way, but in a way that you have all these resources and all these talents and all these tools that you want to provide an even greater service to the
Mhm.
world too. And that's where people get really excited about that destiny of greatness in that way, that you have all this potential to utilize it. And so you have like the raw material, and that becomes your destiny of greatness essentially.
Yeah. The way I envisioned it is the reason why it came to mind is because you showed me the labyrinth, and the way I saw it, it was kind of like in a vision where it's almost like a maze or a labyrinth, some kind
Mm,
of a maze where you have choices and you can go in different directions, but some parts are non-negotiable, and you have to hit those
mm,
parts in your life or in your destiny. Or maybe there are a few parts that you have a choice between hitting part A or part D, but there are some things that we are meant to do or be, or some people we are meant to see, and the rest is free choice, but it is within this container.
yeah, yeah, I like that. And to me, the synchronicities and all these little symbols and signs and nudges and all these things are like moving us towards what is our
I've been
destiny.
doing the dispensa meditations, and he's like, and you're gonna ask for without a doubt a sign, and I'm like, I'm not getting the signs, not getting the signs. I think the more I want to get the science, I'm not getting the science, and when I let go, all of a sudden, oh my god, here's a white feather.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's definitely around a lot of that attachment or the want, like forcing it to be the certain way that we think we want it to be,
Yeah.
and when we let go of that, it shows up in magical, fun ways.
Yeah. Wow, I have so many questions, but I want to be respectful of your time. I'm gonna keep playing with your cards and everything that you provided for me. Thank you. Um, um, Before we say goodbye for now, what are your three top tips to living a stellar life, and where can people find you and join your mastermind and learn from you and
Yeah.
just hang out with you?
Well, the three tips for stellar life. I think one of them for sure is following your curiosity, like just continuing to see whatever piques your curiosity and like what feels like play for you. So curiosity and play, incorporating that, and then figuring out ways of being of service and for whatever reason humans are really interestingly wired that the more we serve, the more it's actually selfish for us in some way, and so doing that is really really powerful. So curiosity, playfulness, and serving,
Yeah.
and then they can check out the Cosmic Journal at anywhere books are sold, or Amazon or HayHouse.com. We also have the card deck, which is called the Cosmic Journey Oracle deck. Both of those are pretty fun and pretty magical. And I've had multiple people cry from picking the right page at the right time. So that's really fun. And then like for the rest of my stuff, I blog occasionally at yaniksilver.com, YANIK silver.com, and then we also have a group called Maverick 1000, which is for different successful industry leading entrepreneurs. So a couple different places.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Janik. This was so much fun. I'm so happy we got to do this. And thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're super busy, so thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with me and with us. And thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Orion, and looking forward to see what happens when you journal with Wonder Woman with your activated ally too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
And and thank you, listeners. Remember to follow your curiosity, be playful, be of service, and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.